Okay, Obama, North Carolina. Let's go to the audio sound bites in Mount Holly, North Carolina, at the Daimler Mount Holly truck manufacturing plant. Here's Obama speaking about the economy. We've got 1, 2, 3. Are they all 5 Obama? Yeah, we got 5 of them. Sorry, but here's the first.
This is not the first time we've seen gas prices spike. It's been happening for years. Every year about this time, gas starts spiking up, and everybody starts wondering how high is it going to go. And every year, politicians start talking when gas prices go up. They get out on the campaign trail, and you and I both know there are no quick fixes to this problem.
And he's no longer a politician, see? He's president, he's no longer a politician. So all these other underlings out there talking about the gas price, like he used to, by the way. Oh, yeah, Obama led the Democrat Party catcalls for Bush to do something about rising gas prices. Now, well, this happens every year at this time. Everybody knows that. Gas starts spiking up. Everybody starts wondering how high it's going to go, but it does that this time of year all the time. Here's the next bite.
Listening to them, you think they're work. As a country that has 2% of the world's oil reserves, but uses 20% of the world's oil. I'm going to repeat that. We've got 2% of the world oil reserves. We use 20%.
Stop the tape. Listen to me. While I have you, I really want you to hear this, because that is a lie. 2% of the reserves. Let me take a test. Conduct a test. Seriously, Mr. Snerdley, when you hear the president say that the United States has 2% of the world's oil reserves, what does that mean to you? No, you're half right in what the incorrect definition is. Snerdley just told me that 2% of the world's reserves means that we have 2% of the entire world's oil supply in our strategic reserves. Most people think that when Obama says we have 2% of the world oil reserves, that means of all the oil in the world, we have 2% of it. Not what that means. Folks, with new technology, we have more oil in the ground that we can get than they have in Saudi Arabia. 2% of the world's reserves means 2% of what has been brought up. 2% of what has been produced. Not 2% of the supply. This is an out-and-out lie, and I don't know how else to categorize it. He is purposely misstating this. This is a left-wing catcall for as long as I have been alive. And in this statistic is the implied guilt. Look at us. We've got 2% of the world's oil, and we use 20%. And it's not fair. We are raping the other nations on this. That's what that means. A country that has 2% of the world's oil reserves but uses 20% of the world's oil, it means that we are raping the rest of the world. We are unfairly taking advantage. And that's not the case. In the first place, 2% of the world's reserves is a misleading statistic because it isn't true. The second thing that you would have to do is, I'm not going to dispute that we use 20%, but what do we do with it? Are we hoarding it? Are we not sharing it? Is nobody else benefiting from our use of oil? Do you realize if every one of us, I'm going to give you a statistic I've used on this program before to illustrate my point here. If every automobile were shut down today and not a single automobile was driven, we would still need 5 to 6 million barrels of oil a day to satisfy all the other products and services that are used, derivatives of oil are used in. Even if we stop driving, we'd still need at least 5 to 6 million barrels a day. But folks, this is not an evil country. And the president is trying to say that we have used more than our share. And that's the justification for making us cut back. That's the justification for high prices. That's the justification for us having to drive smaller and smaller cars, and maybe not even drive cars at all, but drive batteries. And maybe get on mass transit. And bottom line, we have to cut ourselves down to size. Well, the fact of the matter is, we are a nation of greatness because we are good. We are an inherently good people, an inherently good nation, and we do wonders for people around the world. We have liberated people from bondage and tyranny and slavery. We have rebuilt whole continents after destructive wars. We have provided disaster relief for people who've been wiped out. There's no greater people on this planet than the American citizens. None greater. And I really resent this implication here that we are selfish, greedy, unsharing exploiters. But again, we have much more than 2% of the world's reserves. Reserves only mean what's been discovered. Only means what has been brought out of the ground. Not 2% of what's in the ground. Not 2% of the world's supply. We have far more than 2% of the world's supply. We have more oil in the ground. And this is not me saying it. This is several geological surveys and studies in many different publications. We have more oil in the ground than Saudi Arabia does. We just don't have a president that wants to go get it. We don't have a president who wants to allow it to be gotten. Okay, grab soundbite 29, take it back to the beginning. Let's listen to the whole thing uninterrupted if I can pull this off.
Listening to them, you think they're worth. As a country that has 2% of the world's oil reserves, but uses 20% of the world's oil. I'm going to repeat that. We've got 2% of the world oil reserves. We use 20%. What that means is, as much as we're doing to increase oil production, we're not going to be able to just drill our way out of the problem of high gas prices. Anybody who tells you otherwise either doesn't know what they're talking about or they aren't telling you the truth. Here is the truth.
No, Mr. President, you are not the truth. And what you've said here is not the truth. If we can't drill ourselves out of problem, why are we drilling at all? Why don't you shut it all down? If it's so irrelevant and inconsequential. This is not an argument Obama can win if anybody will take it up with it. We're either going to drill for oil or we're not. And if we're going to drill, we should drill for enough. But if we're not, why do it at all? If we can't affect the price of oil by drilling, that means we can't affect the price of oil with supply. Why are we messing with this? But again, folks, please apologize. I apologize to you for focusing on this. I'm so mad I can't see straight. 2% of the world's reserves, and yet we use 20%, and boy, are we evil. That we are selfish. See, we need to cut back and stop this. We need to stop taking other people's oil. Well, of course we don't. We buy it. That's another thing. We're not stealing it. We're buying it from willing sellers. There's nothing immoral whatsoever about us using 20% of the world's oil if we pay for it. Nothing immoral whatsoever, and I can't tell you how I resent this man's effort, day in and day out, to somehow say otherwise. Back after this.